Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Whenever most of us hear the word grammar, we instantly picture this tedious, boring list of arbitrary rules we were forced to memorize. But today, we're actually going to flip that completely on its head. Grammar really isn't some restrictive rulebook. It's more like this incredible, dynamic toolkit for building meaning. Literally every single sentence you construct is like building a house. And today, we're taking a look at the ultimate blueprint.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think about this for a second. What's the fundamental difference between saying, I saw a dog, and I saw the dog? Right? It's just one tiny three-letter word. But that single little word completely changes how we see the world and the whole context of the conversation. I mean, with a dog, it could be absolutely any dog on the planet. But with the dog, you and I both know exactly which furry friend we're talking about. That's the hidden power of grammar, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So, here's our roadmap for today's journey. First up, naming your world. Then, showing who owns what. After that, we'll cover the art of being specific. And finally, connecting ideas together.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, naming your world with nouns.
Look, every solid construction project has to start with a foundation, right? In language, that foundation is basically just naming the things around us using a noun. Simply put, a noun is a word that identifies a person, an animal, a place, a thing, or even an idea. And within this massive foundational category, we've got different tools for different jobs. Take proper nouns. These give a very specific name to a particular person, place, or thing. For instance, the name Shalaja or the comic Tinkle. Those are highly specific proper nouns. On the flip side, we've got common nouns, which just give general names. So instead of naming a specific spot, you might just use the common noun city or town.
Now, we can further divide this foundation into things we can physically experience and things we can only, think about. Concrete nouns are the things you can actually identify through one of your 5 physical senses. Taste, touch, sight, hearing, or smell. Think of asking someone to pass you the chips or asking, hey, what's that noise? You can obviously taste the chips, and you can clearly hear a noise. But abstract nouns, they are a whole different ballgame. They refer to feelings, qualities, and concepts that you can't physically see or touch. You literally can't touch courage, and you definitely can't hold childhood memories in your hands. But they're still nouns representing very real ideas in our minds.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how language actually categorizes the gender of these nouns into 4 distinct, logical buckets. First, we have the masculine gender for males, like a man or a lion. Then we have the feminine gender for females, like a woman or a lioness. After that comes the neuter gender. These are things that are neither masculine nor feminine, mostly inanimate objects, like a house or a book. And finally, we have the super versatile common gender noun. This is a word you can universally use for both males and females, like referring to a child, a dancer, or a teacher. It's honestly a remarkably organized system when you think about it.
Moving right along to Section 2, showing who owns what with possessive nouns. So once we've firmly named the things in our world, we inevitably need to establish the relationships between them, right? Kind of like a blueprint of ownership. And to show this ownership, we rely heavily on this tiny but extremely mighty punctuation mark, the apostrophe. Now, I know the rules around it can sometimes trip people up, so let's just break them down systematically. It's actually pretty straightforward. If a noun is singular, we just add an apostrophe and an S, so the room belonging to a boy becomes the boy's room. Easy. But if the noun is plural and already ends in an S, well, we don't need another S sound. That'd be a tongue twister. We just tack the apostrophe onto the very end. So the room belonging to multiple boys becomes the boys' room, with the apostrophe right after the S. And what about those irregular plurals that don't end in S? We just treat them exactly like singular nouns and add an apostrophe S. So the shirts of the children seamlessly become the children's shirts.
This next example brilliantly illustrates the concept straight from our source text. Here we have ownership explicitly spelled out. The house belonging to the dog is explicitly called a dog's house, which of course is a kennel. And the stable belonging to the horse's stable, is very big. That little apostrophe S is the literal bridge directly tying the animal to its specific home.
Okay, time for a quick pop quiz to test your real-time understanding of what we just covered. Where exactly does the apostrophe go to show ownership for the plural words women or geese? Do you have your answer? Let's see. Because these are irregular plurals that do not end in S, we follow that third rule we just talked about. We add an apostrophe followed by an S. So we get the women's babies or the geese's goslings. Nailed it.
All right, on to section 3, the art of being specific, focusing on articles.
Well, nouns are the big, heavy foundational blocks. Articles are those tiny, intricate details that bring laser-like focus to our communication. Let's look at indefinite articles first, a versus an. As we saw with our dog example earlier, they both point to a general person or thing, not a specific one. But how on earth do you choose between them? Well, the secret rule here is that it's actually all about sound, not just spelling. If the word following the article makes a consonant sound, we use a. For example, she is wearing a uniform. Now I know what you're thinking, uniform starts with a vowel letter. True, but it makes a U sound, which is a consonant sound. Conversely, if the word makes a vowel sound, we use and, like take an umbrella. It's entirely about ensuring the smooth flow of sound in natural human speech. Pretty cool, right?
Then, we have the definite article, the. This is where we narrow our focus all the way down to one exact, specific thing. We use the for things that are completely one of a kind, like the Earth. We use it for names of famous buildings and monuments, like the Taj Mahal. We also use it for major geographical areas or oceans, like the Arctic. And, maybe most importantly, we use it when referring to something we've already mentioned in a conversation. It instantly signals the listener, hey, focus your attention on this specific item that we both already know about.
But hey, it's language, so of course it has its exceptions and twists. So here's a question for you to ponder before we reveal the answer. Do we use an article before the name of a country or the name of a language? What do you naturally say? Like if you want to say you live in a specific nation, do you use an an, or a the?
Well, the answer introduces a truly fascinating concept, the zero article. Yep, in many cases, absolutely no article is needed at all. We use the zero article when we talk about things in a very general sense, when discussing sports, and to answer our trivia question before the names of countries and languages. We don't say I live in the India or I speak the French, we simply say I live in India and I speak French. We even drop the article before meals, simply saying I have eaten breakfast. Sometimes, the most powerful and correct word is actually no word at all.
And finally, that brings us to section 4, connecting ideas together using relative pronouns.
Okay, so we've laid the noun blocks, we've established ownership, and we've added specific details with articles. Now what? We need the mortar to hold all these complex thoughts together. So the crucial point here is knowing exactly which pronoun acts as the right glue for your specific sentence. If you're talking about people, you use the pronouns who or that. If you're talking about animals or things, you switch over to which or that. And if you need to show possession, like connecting a person, animal, or thing directly to something they own, you use whose. These relative pronouns effortlessly join two completely separate sentences talking about the exact same idea into one beautiful, fluid thought.
To really put this into practice, imagine combining two ideas. A vet is a person. A vet takes care of sick animals. We can use the relative pronoun who to connect them smoothly. A vet is a person who takes care of sick animals. Or, let's say we want to connect a llama to where it lives. A llama is an animal which lives in South America. You see? It creates these sophisticated, professional-sounding sentences instead of just short, choppy ones. To see how absolutely all of these building blocks work together in perfect harmony, let's take this fable snippet right from our source material. A lion was awakened from sleep by a mouse running over his face. The lion got angry. The mouse said, "Please leave me. I will help you someday." Now notice how we start with a lion and a mouse, indefinite articles introducing them generally. But then it immediately switches to the lion and the mouse once they become specific, known characters in the story. We've got our nouns, lion, mouse, face, sleep. We have our connectors. This single, simple paragraph utilizes the entire toolkit we've explored today to craft a super compelling, understandable narrative. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. We've uncovered the true architecture of language today, all the way from foundational nouns to connecting relative pronouns. So the provocative question I want to leave you with is this. How are you going to actively apply this newly sharpened language toolkit in your very next email, text message, or conversation? Seriously, start noticing the specific articles you choose, the concrete or abstract nouns you select, and how gracefully you connect your thoughts. Mastering these blocks won't just improve your grammar, it'll completely elevate the clarity and the power of how you communicate with the world. Thanks so much for diving into this with me, and hey, keep building.